We're back with another episode of Franchise My Business, the podcast for franchisors, hosted by franchisors. I'm your host, Kevin Oldham, and we're going to dive right in. I love Simon Sinek. He's written a couple books that have been transformational to me, my leadership style, and I've been able to share his teachings with others. If you're not familiar with him, he's an author, thought leader, started really penetrating mainstream media and climbing up the charts with a talk and a book that he did well over a decade ago called Start With Why. In the past couple of years, he's come out with a book called The Infinite Game, and I'm embarrassed to say that I just read it. Given the fact that he is one of my favorite authors, I would have thought that I would have picked that up right at the newsstand, but I didn't. But the good news for you is if you haven't read this book, I'm going to summarize a couple of key points for you because they are something that is super, super important. It's just another way to look at business, right? And so think about business as a game. There are players. There are generally, when there's a game, there's a set upon rules that all the players agree to. And, there's typically, like, if you think about a game, like a sports game, there's a beginning and an end. So let's use soccer as an example. My kids are playing soccer this weekend. So there's referees, there's players, there's coaches, there's a set of rules, there's penalties if you violate those rules, and there's a beginning and there's an end. It's a finite game. And at the end, there's a winner and there's a loser, or you could tie. Okay. If you run a business that way, I think the headline is you are selling yourself short, leaving opportunity on the table. So if you think about, competing against somebody and there being a winner and a loser, you already have this like finite mindset. All right. And really the biggest thing that I took away from the book is that business can be an infinite game. And theoretically it should be. But it's not just this, hey, I'm going to snap my fingers and make business this infinite game thing for me. You have to study it. And I would highly recommend reading the book. But the very first thing that really contributes to you being an infinite leader, somebody who's leading an organization that is playing the infinite game versus the finite game, is that you have a just cause. And a just cause isn't hitting your numbers for your shareholders this quarter. A just cause isn't, hey, we're going to, we're Microsoft and we see that Apple has created the iPod and we're just going to go create this Zune, which may have had better features and all these things, but it really wasn't something that people bought into. And so you were playing this finite game where you're trying to beat your competitor on a product and you're just so focused on what they're doing and you just rush to market with something and then it just kind of falls flat on its face. History is littered with companies that have thought in a finite manner, and the book brings a lot of them to the table. But I'll just throw up some of these names right now. BlackBerry is a huge one. BlackBerry was very finite in their thinking. They no longer exist. Blockbuster was a big one. They dismissed streaming. They dismissed, or actually they didn't dismiss streaming. They dismissed Netflix before Netflix really got into streaming with their DVD model. There's just so many finite-minded business leaders. And if I'm real honest with myself, until I read this book, I was kind of thinking in a finite manner and leading in a finite manner. There have been years that we've picked revenue goals and like that's been the why for the year. And I actually went back and I apologized to my team after reading this book. I was like, guys, I owe you an apology. Like I have flat out been leading with a finite mindset, and that's not congruent with how I like to conduct myself. And so I changed my thinking, and our goals are, sure, we've got some financial targets we'd like to hit, but that's not the why. That's not why we're showing up every single day. Okay. We're showing up in our digital marketing company to demystify and also just help people understand how digital marketing can be procured how it can be procured profitably, and what it means to work with a group of professionals who will take care of that for you. In the smoothie shop, we definitely have a just cause. Improving lives one smoothie at a time. We will never achieve that. I mean, there will never be a finish line with that. And even my noble commitment for myself as a person to be the filament in the lives of the people I touch. There's no finish line. Like, that's something that I will do for the rest of my life. And that's where you start thinking about like infinite thinking and the infinite game. Okay. Another word about games, and I'm going to wrap this up because I could probably do a segment on each of the core things that really, really matter and make it so that you can play the infinite game. I may do segments later on. But the thing about games, number one rule of a game is to stay in the game. That's it. Wake up tomorrow and be able to play the game again. That can be in your personal life or it can be in your business life. It can be in anything. But the number one thing, unless you want to be out of the game, is to wake up and play the game the next day. Until next time, I'm your host, Kevin Oldham, and I have two asks. One, if this short talk today resonated with you, it probably would resonate with somebody in your life. And it would not be challenging for you to go hit share right now and just text or send a message with this episode to one person that you care about who may be impacted by it. The second ask that I have is also very simple. If you like what we're doing at Franchise My Business, I would deeply appreciate if you would hit the subscribe button. Until next time, I hope you have a phenomenal week. Look forward to visiting with you soon.